I want to ask you a little bit more about that picture one. Because yeah, you look real serious. That's for sure. I had a few other people. I showed the picture to a few other people in my life, and they're not all powerlifters, and they're not, and several of them aren't gym goers. And I asked them, they're from the professional fields that I used to be involved in. Let's just put it loosely like that. I said, "What do you see here?" And this isn't to call you out or make you feel bad, but every single person said fear,
Yes,
just pure fear, absolute terror.
probably accurate. Yeah. I set in that particular photo that I sent for that comp, it was my first time competing as a 63 kilo lifter. So I dropped a weight class, first time having to do an acute cut. And I'd set myself some massive goals. So I wanted to hit 100 GL points. I wanted to hit a certain total, like all of this expectation and pressure and the fear of not achieving those goals, I think was what was weighing on me the most. And I don't think that the goals were unrealistic or unachievable, but I think the fixation that I had on achieving them actually kind of stopped me from getting there because I had so much stress, and we know the impact that stress has on the body and then
Hmm.
the impacts that has on performance. Whereas with bench, I went in with no performance related goals. I just went in wanting to enjoy the experience, and I actually performed. I equaled my comp best. And prior to that, at the last competition, the previous photo we talked about, I only benched 80 kilos. So we added 7.5 kilos to that in like 2 months.
Yeah, we might. I'm gonna write that down. We'll circle back to that. Whether you actually got stronger or not, or uh, and maybe we look at start looking at strength in a slightly different context. Because it was it. Did you get 7.5 kilos stronger, or were you able to access something that was always there, and we're just finding different avenues to access that kind of strength?
Yeah, I definitely think it was the latter. I had hit a lot higher numbers in training prior to the competition where I only benched 80. And I think that definitely was a limiting factor, was just the fear that was getting in the way of allowing me to actually execute. I guess in training, you don't go in, well, usually I don't go in with that much fear that I have in the competition.
Hmm.
So that kind of like makes sense to me, like why I was able to hit more in training than on the platform in that competition.
Let's talk about meaning and what sort of meaning you give to those goals, especially the numbers goals. Because you're right, they're achievable. There's nothing insane about them. People have lifted those numbers before; they will again. They're very well within what you can foreseeably do, especially over the next year or two. So, what was the meaning that you attached to achieving those goals? Because I think that's where people start to get a little bit swirly. Because the goal itself is not a bad goal. It's always the story that we're telling about the goal and whether that can match up with a reasonable expectation on.
Yeah. And I think in my like recent recap that I put up of what the number actually meant to me after the competition that I just did at Bench Worlds, the number didn't really mean anything. It wasn't the number that I celebrated, but before the competition, the number I think represented, I think it was almost like an ego thing. Like I felt like I put in all this work and all this time and effort, and I'd stressed out so much, and I felt like I deserved to hit that number, like I expected that of myself. And I felt like if I didn't achieve that number, then I was like letting myself down in a way, or letting my coach down, which is so silly when you say it out loud. Again, unhinged thoughts. But I think that was a way of measuring, like, and this is a very unhealthy attitude, which I wouldn't encourage, but I think before that was my way of perceiving my worth as a lifter, perceiving whether like I was successful or not. Like it was attached to like how I perceived myself in a negative way. Whereas now I perceive myself, or I'm trying to perceive myself more as just like the type of lifter I am. Did I go out there? Did I do my best? Did I have fun?